The coffee at Sunrise Brew tasted the same as it did 15 years ago. Bitter burnt at the edges with that faint metallic aftertaste that came from water drawn too deep from Montana wells. Emma Hayes wrapped both hands around the ceramic mug, letting the heat seep into her palms, and stared at the laminated menu she'd memorized in high school. Nothing had changed. The same cracked vinyl booths, the same faded photographs of Missoula's founding families on the walls, the same bell above the door that chimed too loud, too cheerful. Everything had changed. She'd walked past this cafe 3 times before finally pushing through the door. Each time her feet had carried her forward, then backward, then forward again, a dance of hesitation she'd perfected over the past 8 months. The art of moving without going anywhere. Emma. The voice cut through the white noise of the cafe, the hiss of the espresso machine, the murmur of morning conversations, the scrape of chair legs against worn linoleum. She looked up, and there he was, Ryan Cole. 15 years had carved lines into the corners of his eyes, had broadened his shoulders, had turned the lean teenager she remembered into someone solid. Real. He wore a canvas jacket with dirt on the cuffs and held a to-go cup in one hand, his other hovering at his side, as if he wasn't sure whether to wave or reach out or just stand there. Ryan. His name felt strange in her mouth, foreign and familiar all at once. I heard you were back. He didn't move closer, didn't sit down, just stood there in the middle of the cafe with that careful stillness she remembered from their shared silences. In high school, the ones that said more than words ever could. Yeah. She lifted her mug, a gesture that meant nothing, explained nothing. I'm back. The silence stretched. Someone laughed at a table behind them. The espresso machine shrieked. How's your dad? Ryan asked. Good. Same. You know Marcus? She forced something that might have been a smile. Still insists he doesn't need reading glasses. Still drives that old truck. The '89 Ford. That's the one. Another beat of quiet. Ryan shifted his weight, and Emma noticed the exhaustion tucked into the corners of his expression, the kind that came from more than missed sleep. He started. Do you want to sit? The words came out before she could stop them, desperate and too eager. She winced internally but kept her face neutral. He glanced at his watch, then back at her, and something flickered across his features. Recognition, maybe. Or memory. Yeah, he said quietly. Yeah, I'd like that. They sat across from each other in the same booth they'd claimed every Friday afternoon junior year, back when Ryan would help her with calculus and she'd help him with English essays, and they'd split a basket of fries that neither of them really wanted. So, Ryan said, wrapping his hands around his coffee cup in an echo of her own gesture. How long are you staying? The question everyone asked, the one she still didn't have an answer to. I don't know yet. She traced the rim of her mug with one finger. I'm fixing up my grandmother's place, the old house on Cottonwood Road. That place is still standing. Barely. A real smile touched her lips this time, small and brief. The roof leaks, the porch is rotting, the pipes make sounds like they're possessed. Sounds about right for a house that old. Ryan's mouth quirked. You need help with any of it. The offer hung in the air between them, weighted with more than neighborly kindness. I couldn't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. He leaned back against the booth, and she caught a glimpse of the boy she remembered, the one who'd shown up at her house at midnight when her mom died, who'd sat on the porch steps with her until dawn without saying a word, who'd somehow known that silence was what she needed. Why? The question came out sharper than she intended. Ryan held her gaze. Because you're back, and because... He paused, choosing his words carefully. Because I know what it's like to need to fix something with your hands when everything else feels broken. The truth of it settled over her like snow, quiet, cold, undeniable. Okay, she said softly. Okay, thank you. He showed up the next morning at 8, driving a truck newer than his father's old ranch vehicle, but still covered in the same Montana dust. Emma watched from the kitchen window as he parked, as he gathered tools from the truck bed, as he stood for a moment looking up at the house with an expression she couldn't read. She opened the door before he could knock. Hey, he said. Hey. They stood in the doorway, and Emma became acutely aware of her coffee-stained sweatshirt, her unwashed hair pulled into a messy knot. The dark circles she'd stopped trying to hide with makeup. If Ryan noticed, he didn't say anything. He just held up a toolbox. Figured we'd start with the porch. The roof can wait until we make sure you're not going to fall through the front steps. That bad? I tested the third step on my way up. It's held together mostly by hope and old paint. She laughed. Actually laughed. The sound startled her, rusty from disuse but real. They worked in comfortable silence the way they always had. Ryan pried up rotted boards while Emma pulled nails, and the December cold bit at their fingers despite their gloves. The mountains rose in the distance, snow-capped and indifferent, the same mountains she'd looked at every day growing up, the same mountains she'd promised herself she'd never see again. So, Ryan's voice broke through her thoughts. Architecture. How's that going? Her hands stilled on the crowbar. It's on hold. He glanced at her, but didn't push. I took a leave of absence. She continued, the words coming slowly, carefully. After David died, the firm was understanding, said I could come back whenever I was ready. And are you ready? Amal looked down at her hands, at the splinters caught in her gloves, at the rust staining her fingers. I don't know what ready feels like anymore. Ryan set down his hammer. Emma. It's fine. She forced brightness into her voice, the mask she'd perfected over 8 months of sympathy cards and casseroles and people who meant well but didn't understand. I'm fine, just needed a change of scenery. Right. He picked up the hammer again, but she could feel his attention on her, sharp and knowing. Change of scenery. They worked until noon, until Emma's dad pulled up in his ancient Ford and honked twice his version of a greeting. Marcus Hayes climbed out of the truck with the careful movements of a man who'd spent 40 years in law enforcement and had the scars to prove it. He was shorter than Ryan, broader, with silver hair. He kept military short and eyes that still saw everything. Ryan Cole, Marcus's voice carried across the yard. Didn't know you were doing charity work these days. Marcus, Ryan wiped his hands on his jeans and crossed the yard to shake the older man's hand. Good to see you. Heard your dad's ranch is doing well. That new irrigation system working out. So far, still figuring out all the technology. Dad says it's like trying to teach an old dog quantum physics. Marcus chuckled. Sounds like Tom. His gaze shifted to Emma, and something in his expression softened. You feeding this boy, Emma? He's doing manual labor. Least you could do is make him a sandwich. Dad, I'm fine, sir, Ryan interjected. I should probably head foot anyway. Gotta pick up my daughter from school. Emma's head snapped up. You have a daughter? Oh. Something flickered in Ryan's eyes, pride mixed with something darker, more complicated. Yeah, Lily, she's 6. I didn't know you. Emma stopped herself. Of course she didn't know. She'd left Missoula 15 years ago and never looked back, never called, never asked about the lives continuing without her. Her mom and I split up a couple years back, Ryan said quietly. It's just the two of us now. Marcus cleared his throat. Well, don't let us keep you. Give Tom my regards. Will do. Ryan gathered his tools, loaded them into his truck. Before he climbed into the cab, he looked back at Emma. I'll come by tomorrow if that's okay. Finish up the porch. You don't have to. I know. His smile was small, genuine. See you tomorrow, Emma. She watched him drive away, watched the dust settle behind his tires, and felt something shift in her chest. Not happiness exactly, but maybe the memory of what happiness used to feel like. That night, Emma stood in her grandmother's kitchen, her kitchen now, though it didn't feel like hers yet, and tried to remember how to cook. The cabinets were full of expired canned goods and mismatched dishes. The refrigerator hummed too loud and smelled faintly of mildew. She'd bought groceries earlier, basic things, but now she stared at the chicken breast and vegetables on the counter and couldn't remember what to do with them. Her phone buzzed. A text from her father, dinner at my place tomorrow, 6 p.m. No arguments. She typed back, okay, another buzz. This time from her old boss in Seattle, just checking in. We miss you. Take all the time you need. She didn't respond to that one. Instead, she made a grilled cheese sandwich, the one meal she could handle on autopilot, and ate it standing at the kitchen window, looking out at the dark yard, the skeletal trees, the mountains invisible in the night, but they're all the same. Her phone lit up again. She almost ignored it, but something made her look. A friend request on Facebook. Ryan Cole. Her finger hovered over the screen. 15 years of distance compressed into a single decision: accept or ignore, open the door, or keep it closed. She accepted. His profile loaded. Photos of a little girl with dark curls and Ryan's eyes. Photos of the ranch horses' cattle-wide Montana skies. Photos of a younger Ryan with a blonde woman smiling their arms around each other. No recent photos of the woman. Emma closed the app, set down her phone, stared at her reflection in the dark window. The woman looking back at her was a stranger, thin where she used to be, strong hollow where she used to be whole. Her wedding ring still sat on her left hand, too loose now, spinning whenever she moved. She thought about David, about their apartment in Seattle with the view of the Sound, about how he'd worked late every night the last year of his life, how they'd stopped talking about anything real, how she'd known the marriage was dying long before he did. She thought about the relief she'd felt when the police knocked on her door at 3 in the morning, the immediate crushing guilt that followed, the way those two feelings had tangled together until she couldn't separate them, couldn't breathe around them. She twisted the ring on her finger, pulled it off, held it up to the light. Then she put it back on. Not yet. She wasn't ready yet. Ryan came back the next morning and the morning after that and the one after that. They fell into a rhythm. Him arriving at 8 here with coffee already made the two of them working on the house until mid-afternoon when he'd have to leave to pick up Lily from school. They talked while they worked. Small things at first. Safe things. He told her about the ranch, about the challenges of modern cattle farming, about his father's retirement, and the weight of taking over a family legacy. She told him about Seattle, about the firm she'd worked for, about the buildings she'd designed, that now stood as monuments to a life she'd stepped away from. They didn't talk about David. They didn't talk about his ex-wife. They orbited around the painful topics of two planets in careful rotation, never quite colliding. On the fourth day, Marcus joined them for lunch. Emma had made sandwiches, a small victory over her kitchen paralysis, and they sat on the newly repaired porch steps eating in comfortable silence. Marcus reached for his coffee cup. His hand trembled. Just slightly. Just for a second, but enough that the cup rattled against the porch railing before he steadied it. Emma's eyes snapped to her father's face. He was staring determinedly at his sandwich jaw tight. "Dad." "Old hands," he said gruffly. "Winter makes them stiff." But it wasn't winter stiffness. Emma had spent enough time around her mother's final years to recognize the signs. The slight tremor, the careful way he controlled his movements, the overcompensation in his voice. She opened her mouth to say something, but Ryan caught her eye and gave a tiny shake of his head. "Not now, not like this." Marcus finished his sandwich, checked his watch with exaggerated precision, and stood. "Got a doctor's appointment. Routine checkup. Nothing exciting." "Dad." "Emma." His voice was firm. "Don't start." They watched him drive away, and Emma felt the bottom drop out of her stomach. "How long have you known?" she asked Ryan quietly. "Couple months. Saw him at the pharmacy. He told me not to say anything." "What is it?" "I don't know. He didn't tell me." Ryan set down his coffee. "But Emma, he's your dad. He'll tell you when he's ready." "What if he's not one? What if he waits too long?" Ryan was quiet for a moment. Then you wait with him, and you make sure he knows he doesn't have to carry it alone." Emma closed her eyes against the sudden burn of tears. "I don't know how to do this." "Do what?" "Any of it. Be back here, watch my dad get old. Fix a house that's falling apart." She opened her eyes, looked at him. "I don't know how to be the person people need me to be." Ryan held her gaze. "Then be the person you are. That's enough." That night, Emma drove to her father's. It was the same house she'd grown up in, smaller than she remembered, worn at the edges. Marcus opened the door before she could knock. "Figured you'd come by," he said. "Are you going to tell me what's going on?" He sighed, stepped aside to let her in. The living room looked the same as it always had, worn leather recliner shelves full of books. On law enforcement, in Western history, photos of Emma and her mother scattered like memories frozen in time. Marcus settled into his recliner. Emma took the couch. "It's Parkinson's," he said without preamble. "Early stage, diagnosed 3 months ago." The words hit her like a physical blow. 3 months, Dad. Why didn't you?" "Because you had enough to deal with." His voice was gentle but firm. "You lost your husband. You were barely holding yourself together. I wasn't about to pile my problems on top of yours." "That's not how this works." "That's exactly how this works. I'm your father. It's my job to protect you." I'm 32 years old. And you're still my daughter. He leaned forward, the elbows on his knees. Emma, I'm okay. The medication is working. The progression is slow. I've got years before it becomes a real problem. Years, she repeated numbly. Years, he confirmed. And in the meantime, I'm not going to sit around feeling sorry for myself. I'm going to live my life, same as always. Emma stared at her hands, at her wedding ring, at all the ways life kept breaking things she thought were permanent. I can't lose you too, she whispered. Marcus crossed the space between them, sat beside her on the couch, pulled her into his arms the way he used to when she was small, and the world seemed too big. You're not going to lose me, he said into her hair. Not for a long time. I promise. She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that promises meant something, that the universe kept its word, that love was enough to hold back the inevitable. But she'd learned better. The next morning, Ryan showed up at 7 instead of 8. Emma was still in her pajamas, her eyes red from crying herself to sleep, her hair a disaster. He took one look at her and said, "Get dressed. We're going somewhere." "Ryan, no arguments, 10 minutes, dress warm." She wanted to protest, wanted to close the door and crawl back into bed and let the world continue without her. But something in Ryan's expression stopped her, a quiet certainty, a promise of something she couldn't name. "Okay," she said. 12 minutes later, she climbed into his truck and they drove in silence through Missoula, past the university, past the old neighborhoods out toward the ranch lands, where the city gave way to open country. He pulled off the highway onto a dirt road, drove for another 10 minutes, then stopped at the edge of a field where the land rolled down toward a frozen creek and the mountains rose sharp against the morning sky. "Where are we?" Emma asked. "A place I come when I need to remember things are bigger than my problems." He killed the engine. "Come on." They walked across the field, their boots crunching through the frost-brittle grass. The air was so cold it hurt to breathe, and their breath came out in clouds that dissipated into the pale morning light. Ryan stopped at the edge of the creek where a fallen cottonwood stretched across the water like a bridge to nowhere. "Lily doesn't talk much," he said without preamble. "After her mom left, she just stopped. She talks to me sometimes. A word here and there, but mostly she's quiet." Emma waited, understanding that this was a gift his pain offered in exchange for hers. "The doctors say it's selective mutism, trauma response. They say it'll get better with time and therapy, but it's been 2 years, and I feel like I'm watching her disappear into herself more every day." His voice cracked. "I don't know how to reach her. I don't know how to fix this." Emma stepped closer until their shoulders almost touched. "You can't fix it. You can only be there and wait, and love her enough that she knows you're not going anywhere." That's what I tell myself. But what if it's not enough? Then it's not enough, but it's all you have, so you give it anyway. They stood in silence, watching the sun climb higher, watching the frost begin to melt, watching the world wake up around them. "Your dad's going to be okay," Ryan said quietly. "You don't know that." "No, but I know he's tough, and I know he's got you, and I know that counts for something." Emma felt tears slip down her to frozen cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. "I'm glad you're here," Ryan said. "Back in Missoula. I know it's probably the last place you want to be, but I'm glad." She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the boy she'd left behind and the man he'd become, and all the years between them that could have been different if she'd been brave enough to stay. "I'm glad too," she whispered. They went back to working on the house, but something had shifted. The silences felt less careful, more comfortable. They started taking breaks together, sitting on the porch with coffee, watching the Montana winter paint the world in shades of white and gray. Ryan told her about his ex-wife, Melissa, how they'd met in college, married too young, wanted different things. How she'd left one night while Lily was sleeping, left a note on the kitchen table, and an emptiness that filled every room of the ranch house. Emma told him about David, about the slow death of their marriage, the way they'd become strangers sharing an address, about the accident, black ice, a semi-truck instantly, about the guilt that felt like drowning. "I couldn't cry at the funeral," she admitted one afternoon while they were painting the living room a soft gray that her grandmother would have hated. "Everyone expected me to fall apart, but I just stood there feeling nothing, feeling relieved. What kind of person does that make me? The kind who was already grieving long before he died." Ryan set down his paintbrush, turned to face her fully. "The kind who's human." I keep waiting to feel something other than guilty. Sad, maybe. Angry. Something real. Maybe this is real. Maybe grief doesn't look the way we think it should. Emma stared at the wall at the fresh paint covering the yellowed floral wallpaper her grandmother had put up in 1973. How do you do it? How do you keep going when everything feels broken? You put one foot in front of the other. You get up every morning. You make breakfast for your kid. You fix fences and feed cattle and pretend you have answers when you don't. He paused. And sometimes you show up at a friend's house at 7 in the morning and take them to a field because you remember that sometimes you need someone to sit with you in the broken places. Is that what we are? Emma asked softly. Friends? Ryan met her eyes and something passed between them. Recognition memory, the ghost of a possibility they'd never explored. Yeah, he said, friends. But the word felt insufficient, too small for the weight it was being asked to carry. On a Tuesday morning, 2 weeks after Emma had come back to Missoula, Ryan showed up with a surprise. There's someone I want you to meet, he said. Lily Cole was tiny, all dark curls and serious eyes, in a winter coat that seemed too big for her small frame. She stood half hidden behind her father's leg, watching Emma with the cautious intensity of a wild animal deciding whether to run. Lily, this is Emma, Ryan said gently. She's an old friend of mine. She's fixing up her grandmother's house. Lily didn't say anything, didn't move. Emma crouched down to the little girl's level. Hi, Lily, your dad's told me a lot about you. Still nothing. Do you like to draw? Emma asked, a tiny nod. Emma glanced up at Ryan, who was watching his daughter with an expression of such raw hope it made Emma's chest ache. I have some paper and colored pencils inside, Emma said to Lily. Would you like to draw while your dad and I work on the house? Lily looked up at Ryan. He nodded encouragement. The little girl walked slowly into the house, and Emma and Ryan followed. Emma set up a makeshift art station at the kitchen table, paper pencils, and an old book of Montana wildlife for reference. Lily sat down and immediately began to draw, her small hands moving with surprising confidence across the page. Emma and Ryan returned to their work, but every few minutes Emma found herself glancing into the kitchen, checking on the silent child bent over her drawings. An hour passed, then 2. At lunch, Emma made sandwiches, 3 this time. Lily ate hers without a word, her eyes never leaving her paper. Emma walked over to see what the little girl was drawing. She expected horses or mountains, the usual Montana imagery. Instead, she found a detailed pencil sketch of a bird, a magpie rendered with careful attention to the feathers, the sharp beak, the intelligent eyes. Lily, Emma breathed, this is beautiful. The little girl looked up at her, and for the first time something sparked in her dark eyes. Emma sat down beside her. Do you know what I do for work? I'm an architect. I draw buildings, but I'm not very good at drawing animals. She picked up a pencil. Could you show me how you did the feathers? Lily studied her for a long moment. Then slowly she reached out and guided Emma's hand, showing her the light strokes that created the illusion of texture. They drew together for the next hour, Emma sketching clumsy birds, while Lily added details, correcting, demonstrating. The little girl didn't speak, but she didn't need to. The drawings were their conversation. When Ryan came in to say it was time to go, Lily carefully gathered her drawings. She paused at the door, looked back at Emma, and smiled. It was small, brief, but it was real. After they left, Emma stood in her kitchen and cried. Not from sadness this time, from something else. Something that felt almost like hope. The days began to blur together in the best way. Ryan and Lily came every morning. Ryan worked on the house while Emma and Lily drew at the kitchen table. Gradually, the little girl began to stay closer to Emma, to sit beside her instead of across from her, to lean against her shoulder while they worked. She still didn't speak, but she laughed a small, surprised sound when Emma drew a horse that looked more like a deformed dog. Marcus came by for lunch most days. Emma watched him carefully now, noticing the way he gripped his coffee cup with both hands, the way he moved slower than he used to, the way exhaustion lived in the corners of his eyes. They didn't talk about the Parkinson's, but they didn't have to. Emma made sure his fridge was stocked, made sure he had his medications, made sure he knew she was there. You don't have to take care of me, he said one afternoon. I know, Emma replied. I'm doing it anyway. He had smiled, squeezed her hand, said nothing more. The house was starting to look like a home. The porch was solid, the roof was patched, the walls were painted. Emma had unpacked her boxes, hung curtains, filled the rooms with secondhand furniture from the Missoula thrift stores. She was building a life here. She hadn't meant to, hadn't planned to, but somehow day by day, moment by moment, she was putting down roots in soil she'd sworn she'd never return to. One evening as she was making dinner, actual dinner, not just a sandwich, her phone rang. Her old boss. "Emma, how are you?" "I'm okay, getting better." "Good, that's good." A pause. "Listen, I know you said you needed time, but I wanted you to know we've got a project coming up. Big one. Mixed-use development in Seattle. They're asking for you specifically." Emma's hands stilled on the knife she'd been using to chop vegetables. "When would I need to be back? End of January, if you're ready." 6 weeks. She had 6 weeks to decide if she was going back to Seattle, back to her career, back to the life she'd built before everything fell apart. "Can I think about it?" "Of course. Take your time. But Emma, we really hope you'll come back. You're one of our best." After she hung up, Emma stood in her grandmother's kitchen, and looked around at the life she'd been building. The drawings Lily had made now stuck to the refrigerator with magnets. The coffee maker that Ryan had fixed when it stopped working. The view from the window of mountains and sky in endless Montana winter. She thought about Seattle, about the firm, about the person she used to be. She didn't know who she was anymore. But for the first time in 8 months, she wanted to find out. The next Saturday, Ryan invited her to the ranch for dinner. "Nothing fancy," he said, "just us. And Lily would like you to come." She drew you an invitation. The invitation was a carefully colored picture of three stick figures standing in front of a house, a tall one, a short one, and a medium one with yellow hair. "I'd love to," Emma said. The ranch was exactly as she remembered it from the one time she'd visited in high school, sprawling and worn and beautiful. The main house sat at the end of a long gravel drive, surrounded by barns and corrals in the wide Montana sky. Lily met her at the door, grabbed her hand without hesitation, and pulled her inside to see her room, a small space filled with drawings and books and a collection of rocks that apparently came from all over the ranch. Ryan cooked dinner, spaghetti and meatballs, simple and perfect, and they ate at the kitchen table while Lily showed Emma her latest drawings. After dinner, they sat in the living room. A fire crackled in the stone fireplace. Lily curled up on the couch between Emma and Ryan, her head on Emma's shoulder, her small body warm and trusting. Emma looked down at the little girl, at her dark curls and serious expression, and felt something crack open in her chest. This was what she'd been missing. Not romance or passion or grand gestures, just this, the quiet comfort of belonging somewhere, of mattering to someone, of being part of something larger than her own broken pieces. Ryan caught her eye across Lily's head. He smiled, and in that smile was understanding and gratitude and something else, something neither of them was ready to name. Lily fell asleep on Emma's shoulder. Ryan moved to carry her to bed, but Emma stopped him. "Let her stay," she whispered, "just for a little while." So they sat there as the fire burned low, as the winter night deepened around them, as a little girl slept peacefully between two people who were learning how to be whole again. Emma thought about Seattle, about the job offer waiting for her, about all the reasons she should go back. But sitting there in Ryan's living room with Lily's warm weight against her side and Ryan's quiet presence beside her, she couldn't remember what any of those reasons were. Later, after Ryan had carried Lily to bed, after Emma had said goodnight and walked to her as she posed with her hand on the door handle, Ryan stood on the porch, backlit by the warm glow of the house. "Emma," he called softly. She turned. "I'm really glad you came back to Missoula." The words hung in the cold night air, weighted with more than casual sentiment. "Me too," she said. And for the first time since David died, since her marriage crumbled, since her life fell apart, she meant it. She drove home through the Montana darkness, and when she passed the exit for the highway that would take her to Seattle, she didn't even slow down. The letter arrived on a Monday morning in mid-January, delivered by a courier who made Emma sign 3 times before handing over the thick manila envelope. She knew what it was before she opened it. Legal documents had a weight to them, not just physical, but emotional. They carried consequences. Emma sat at her kitchen table, the envelope unopened in front of her, coffee growing cold in her mug. Through the window, she could see Ryan's truck pulling up the driveway. He was early today. She slid the envelope into a drawer. Whatever it was, it could wait. "Morning," Ryan said when she opened the door. Lily stood beside him, bundled in her purple winter coat, clutching a rolled-up piece of paper. "Morning." Emma smiled at the little girl. What do you have there, Lily? Lily unrolled the paper carefully. It was a drawing Emma and Lily sitting at the kitchen table, surrounded by birds and flowers that didn't exist in Montana winter, but existed perfectly in a 6-year-old's imagination. It's beautiful, Emma said softly, crouching down. Is this for me? A nod. Can I hang it on my wall? Another nod, this one accompanied by a small smile. Emma taped the drawing to the wall above the kitchen table, right where she'd see it every morning. When she turned back, Lily was already settling into her usual chair, pulling out her pencils. Ryan touched Emma's elbow gently. You okay? You look tired. Didn't sleep well. Not a lie, but not the whole truth either. The house keeping you up, I can check the pipes again. No, it's not the house, she forced a smile. Just one of those nights. He studied her face and she could see him weighing whether to push or let it go. He let it go. I'm going to work on the back porch today, he said. That railing's been wobbling. Ryan, you don't have to keep coming here every day. The house is mostly done. I know. He held her gaze. But I like being here. The words settled between them, honest and uncomplicated. Emma felt heat rise to her cheeks. Okay, she said quietly. I like having you here. At noon, Marcus showed up with sandwiches from the deli downtown and news. Got a call this morning, he said, settling into a kitchen chair while Lily Drew and Emma made coffee. Bill Davidson, you remember him, used to be on the force with me. Anyway, his daughter's getting married this summer. Big to-do at one of those fancy ranches up north. He wants me to come. That's nice, Dad. Asked if I'd bring a date. Marcus's eyes twinkled. Figured it was time I got back out there. Been 3 years since your mother passed. Emma paused in pouring the coffee. Are you asking my permission? Just letting you know. Didn't want you to be surprised if I mention I'm seeing someone. Who is she? Her name's Ruth. Works at the library. We've been having coffee on Thursdays for a few weeks now. He cleared his throat. She knows about the Parkinson's. Didn't scare her off. Emma crossed to her father, kissed the top of his head. I'm happy for you, Dad. Yeah. And she meant, her father deserved happiness, deserved companionship, deserved to live fully in whatever time he had left. After Marcus left, Emma found herself back at the kitchen drawer, staring at the manila envelope. She pulled it out, opened it. The letterhead read Davidson and Associates, Legal Counsel, Seattle, Washington. She scanned the first page, then the second, then sat down heavily in a chair. Emma, Ryan's voice startled her. She looked up to find him standing in the doorway, concern etched across his features. What's wrong? She handed him the letter wordlessly. He read in silence, his expression darkening with each paragraph. When he finished, he set the papers down carefully. Your old firm is suing you, breach of contract, non-compete clause. Emma's voice was flat. Apparently designing your ranch addition counts as competing work. They want damages, and they want me to cease all architectural work in Montana. That's insane. You were helping a friend. Doesn't matter. I signed the contract. The clause is enforceable. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. I thought I could just exist here for a while, fix a house, figure things out. But I can't even do that without everything falling apart. Ryan sat across from her. What are they asking for? $50,000 in damages, and I have to return to Seattle to resolve it, in person, by the end of the month. Or they proceed with the full lawsuit, which would cost me more than I have, and probably destroy any chance I have of working in architecture again. The kitchen was silent except for the soft scratch of Lily's pencil on paper. The little girl was absorbed in her drawing, unaware of the adult crisis unfolding around her. I'll cancel the ranch project, Ryan said immediately. We'll tell them it was a mistake, that you didn't do any actual work. Ryan, no, you need that addition. And it's too late anyway. They already have documentation. Someone must have reported it. Emma pressed her palms against her eyes. This is my fault. I should have checked my contract before I agreed to help you. You were doing me a favor. And now that favor is going to cost both of us. She dropped her hands, met his eyes. I have to go back to Seattle. The words hung between them, heavy and final. For how long? Ryan asked quietly. I don't know, however long it takes to sort this out. Weeks, maybe months. Lily looked up from her drawing, her dark eyes moving between Emma and her father. Something in the child's expression shifted, a closing off, a retreat into herself. Emma saw it, felt it like a physical blow. "Lily," she started, but the little girl was already gathering her pencils, rolling up her paper, retreating into the careful silence she'd lived in before Emma arrived. "I'm sorry," Emma whispered. Ryan's jaw was tight. "It's not your fault." But it felt like her fault. Everything felt like her fault. The lawsuit, the disruption to Ryan's project, the fear in Lily's eyes. "I should go," Ryan said, standing. "Let you figure things out." "Ryan, I'll finish the porch railing tomorrow. Won't take more than an hour." His voice was careful, controlled, professional. "You don't owe me anything, Emma. For the work on the house, consider it a gift." "I don't want it to be a gift. I want—" She stopped. What did she want? Ryan waited, but she couldn't find the words. "Come on, Lily," he said gently to his daughter. The little girl slipped off her chair and walked to the door without looking back at Emma. The silence after they left was deafening. Emma spent the rest of the day on the phone with lawyers, her lawyer, the firm's lawyer, mediators who spoke in careful legal language that boiled down to she'd signed a contract and now she had to face the consequences. By evening, her head throbbed and her eyes burned, and she wanted nothing more than to disappear. Instead, she drove to her father's house. Marcus took one look at her face and poured 2 glasses of whiskey. They sat on his back porch despite the cold, wrapped in blankets, watching the sun set behind the mountains. "Tell me," he said. So she did. All of it. The lawsuit, the non-compete clause, the $50,000 she didn't have, the requirement to return to Seattle. "And Ryan," Marcus asked when she'd finished. "What about Ryan?" "Don't play dumb, Emma. You care about him and that little girl." "It doesn't matter what I feel. I have to go back." "For how long?" "I don't know." Marcus sipped his whiskey. "You know what your mother used to say, life is what happens when you're making other plans. You came back here to hide, to figure things out, but instead you found something real, something worth staying for." "I can't stay, Dad. I don't have a choice." "There's always a choice." He set down his glass. "The question is what you're willing to fight for." That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, watching shadows move across the plaster, thinking about choices and consequences and all the ways life refused to follow the plans she made. At 2 in the morning, she got up and pulled out her laptop, opened her email, stared at the message from her old boss. "We really hope you'll come back." She typed a reply. "I need to talk to you about the lawsuit." Deleted it. Typed, "I'm not coming back." Deleted that too. Finally, she wrote, "Can we talk tomorrow? I need to understand my options." Sent it before she could change her mind. Then she opened a new document and started writing. Not an email, not a legal response. Just thoughts, feelings, all the things she couldn't say out loud. "I came back to Missoula because I had nowhere else to go, because I was broken and Seattle was full of ghosts, and I needed to be somewhere that remembered who I was before everything fell apart. But I'm not that person anymore. I'm not the girl who left 15 years ago. I'm not the architect who built a career in Seattle. I'm not David's wife or my mother's daughter or any of the identities I've worn like armor. I don't know who I am, but I know I don't want to leave. I know I want to watch Lily draw birds and listen to Ryan talk about cattle irrigation and sit on my father's porch watching the sunset. I know I want to stay in this broken house I've been fixing in this town I swore I'd never return to in this life. I didn't plan, but somehow fits better than anything I've ever known. But wanting isn't enough. It never has been." She saved the document, closed the laptop, went back to bed and stared at the ceiling until dawn. Ryan didn't come by the next morning. Or the morning after that. Emma worked on the house alone, painting the last bedroom, fixing loose cabinet hinges, doing all the small tasks that didn't really need doing, but gave her hands something to hold besides her phone checking for messages that didn't come. On the 3rd day, she drove to the ranch. The main house looked quiet, no smoke from the chimney, no lights in the windows. She almost turned around, but then she saw Ryan in one of the corrals working with a horse, a young mare skittish and beautiful. She parked and walked to the fence. Ryan glanced up, saw her, and his expression did something complicated, surprise and pleasure and pain, all mixed together. He said something to the mare, stroked her neck, then walked over to Emma. "Hey," he said, "hey." Emma gripped the top rail of the fence. "I wanted to see how you were, how Lily is." "We're okay." He pulled off his work gloves. She's at school, has a field trip today to the Natural History Museum. She loves museums. Yeah, a pause. She's been drawing you. Same picture over and over. You and her at your kitchen table. Emma's throat tightened. Ryan, I'm sorry about the lawsuit, about having to about don't. His voice was gentle but firm. Don't apologize for things that aren't your fault. I feel like I'm abandoning you. Both of you. You're not abandoning anyone. You're dealing with your life. That's different. He leaned against the fence beside her. When do you leave? Next week, I have meetings with lawyers on the 28th. And then, I don't know. It depends on how things go. They stood in silence, watching the mare circle the corral. I found something, Ryan said after a while. When I was cleaning out the barn last week, thought you might want to see it. He led her into the barn, dark and warm and smelling of hay and horses. In the back corner near the tack room, he pulled aside a stack of old boards to reveal a wooden crate. My dad's been storing stuff up here for decades. Most of it's junk. But this, he opened the crate and pulled out a cigar box. This was in there. Emma took the box, opened it. Inside were photographs. Old ones faded and creased. Her grandmother's house in summer before the paint peeled and the porch sagged. A young man and woman standing in front of it, Emma's grandparents, she realized. And tucked in the bottom a letter. The envelope was addressed to Emma Hayes, care of Ryan's ranch. Her hands trembled as she pulled out the paper. The letter was from Ryan. Dated June 2010, the week before high school graduation. Dear Emma, I've started this letter 20 times and I still don't know what to say. How do you tell your best friend that somewhere between calculus homework and Friday afternoon fries, you fell in love with her? I know you're leaving for Harvard in the fall. I know you've got plans and dreams and a whole future mapped out. I know I'm just the kid who stayed in Montana who's going to take over his dad's ranch, who'll probably never leave this town. But I had to tell you, even if it doesn't change anything, even if you read this and never speak to me again, I love you, Emma Hayes. I have for years. And I think part of me will always love you, no matter where you go or who you become. If you feel the same way, even a little stay. We'll figure out the rest. Harvard can wait, or I'll come with you, or we'll do long distance. I don't care, as long as I don't have to watch you leave without knowing if there was ever a chance for us. But if you don't feel the same way, that's okay too. I'll still be your friend. I'll still be here if you ever need me. That's not going to change. All I'm asking is for you to tell me the truth. Love, Ryan. Emma read the letter twice, then a third time. Her vision blurred with tears. You never sent it, she whispered. No. Ryan's voice was rough. I wrote it, sealed it, drove to your house 3 times to give it to you, but I couldn't do it. I was too scared. Of what? Of losing you completely. If you didn't feel the same way, if I made things weird between us, I'd lose my best friend right when I needed her most. He laughed bitterly. So instead I said nothing, and I lost you anyway. Emma looked up at him, at the man who'd loved her 15 years ago, who'd never told her who'd let her go without a fight. Why are you showing me this now, she asked. Because I don't want to make the same mistake twice. He stepped closer. I know you have to go to Seattle. I know you have to deal with the lawsuit and figure out your life. But Emma, his voice broke. Before you go, I need you to know. The way I felt when I was 18, it never went away. I tried, got married, had a kid, built a whole life without you. But you were always there in the back of my mind. The what if that kept me up at night. Ryan, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. So that if you decide to come back, or if you decide to stay in Seattle, you can make that choice with all the information. Emma's heart was hammering against her ribs. And if I don't know what I want, then figure it out. Take your time. I'll be here. He smiled, sad and beautiful. I'm good at waiting. Emma drove home in a daze. The letter sat on the passenger seat, a piece of paper that weighed more than it should, that changed everything and nothing all at once. She thought about 18-year-old Ryan writing and rewriting those words, working up the courage he never quite found. She thought about 18-year-old Emma leaving for Harvard, building the life she thought she wanted, never knowing that another possibility had existed. She thought about all the years between then and now, the choices made, the paths taken, the doors closed. At home, she sat at her kitchen table and pulled out the binder she'd written a few nights ago. Read it again. Wanting isn't enough. But maybe it was. Maybe wanting was the beginning of everything. She opened her laptop, pulled up the email from her boss, started typing. I'm not coming back to Seattle, not permanently. I understand the consequences of that decision. I'll work with my lawyer to resolve the non-compete issue. I'll pay whatever damages are reasonable, and I accept that I may not be able to work in architecture again. But I can't keep running away from the life I'm building here. I can't keep choosing the safe option. The expected option, the option that makes sense on paper. For once, I'm choosing what I want, even if it's scary, even if it doesn't make sense. Thank you for everything. I'm sorry it has to end this way. She read it 3 times, then hit send before she could change her mind. Her phone rang almost immediately. Her boss. Emma, we need to talk about this. I know, and I will. I'll come to Seattle next week like planned. We'll work it out. But my decision stands. You're making a mistake. Maybe. Emma looked around her kitchen at Lily's drawings on the walls, at the sunlight streaming through clean windows, at the home she'd built from broken pieces. But it's my mistake to make. She told her father that night over dinner at his house. Ruth was there, a quiet woman with kind eyes who made Marcus laugh in a way Emma hadn't heard in years. You're sure? Marcus asked. I'm sure. What about the lawsuit? My lawyer thinks we can settle. It won't be cheap, but it's manageable. Emma pushed food around her plate. And if I can't do architecture anymore, I'll figure something else out. You could always become a contractor, Ruth suggested with a smile. You've done beautiful work on your grandmother's house. Maybe. Emma hadn't thought that far ahead. One decision at a time. And Ryan, Marcus asked quietly. Emma met her father's eyes. I don't know. That's complicated. Love usually is. I didn't say anything about love. Marcus and Ruth exchanged a knowing look that made Emma want to sink through the floor. You don't have to say it, her father said. It's written all over your face. Emma went to the ranch the next morning, early before Ryan would be out working, before she could lose her nerve. She knocked on the door, heard footsteps. Then Ryan was there wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, hair sticking up, eyes still heavy with sleep. Emma? It's 6 in the morning. I know, I'm sorry, I needed to see you. He stepped aside to let her in. The house was warm, quiet. Through an open doorway, Emma could see Lily's room. The little girl still asleep, curled up under blankets covered in stars. They went to the kitchen. Ryan started coffee while Emma tried to find words for everything she was feeling. I'm not going back to Seattle, she said finally. Not permanently. I'll go next week to meet with lawyers to settle things. But I'm coming back, to Missoula, to the house, to... She stopped, started again. I read your letter, the one from 15 years ago. Ryan's hand stilled on the coffee pot. Emma, let me finish, please. She took a breath. When I was 18, I thought leaving was the brave choice. Going to Harvard, building a career, making something of myself. I thought staying would be giving up, settling. I know. But I was wrong. Leaving was easy. It's staying that takes courage. She moved closer to him. I don't know what this is between us. I don't know if it's love or nostalgia or just two broken people finding comfort in familiar places. But I want to find out, if you'll let me. Ryan set down the coffee pot, turned to face her fully. I'm not asking for promises, Emma continued. I'm not asking you to fix me or save me or be anything other than what you are. I want a chance to see what we could be, if I'm not too late. The silence stretched between them, and Emma's heart climbed into her throat. Maybe she'd misread everything. Maybe the letter from 15 years ago didn't mean anything now. Maybe Ryan closed the distance between them in 2 strides, cupped her face in his hands, and kissed her. It was gentle and desperate all at once. A question and an answer. 15 years of what-ifs condensed into one perfect moment. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Ryan rested his forehead against hers. You're not too late, he whispered. You could never be too late. They talked for hours, about Emma's lawsuit, about Ryan's ranch, about Lily and Marcus, and all the complicated pieces of their lives that would need to fit together. It wouldn't be easy. Emma knew that. There would be challenges. Lily's selective mutism, Emma's guilt about David, the small-town gossip that came with moving too fast. But sitting in Ryan's kitchen as the sun rose over the Montana mountains, watching him smile at her across the table, Emma felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Real, terrifying, beautiful hope. Lily woke up around 7. She padded into the kitchen in her pajamas, rubbing sleep from her eyes, and stopped when she saw Emma. For a long moment, the little girl just stared. Then she walked over to Emma, climbed into her lap without a word, and rested her head on Emma's shoulder. Emma's arms came around her automatically. She looked at Ryan over Lily's dark curls and saw tears in his eyes. "Stay," Lily whispered. Emma froze. Ryan froze. It was the first word Lily had spoken to Emma. The first word she'd spoken to anyone outside her father in months. "Please stay," the little girl said again, her voice small but clear. Emma held her tighter. "I will. I promise." The week before Emma had to leave for Seattle passed in a blur of lawyer calls and paperwork and stolen moments with Ryan and Lily. They didn't tell anyone what was happening between them, didn't define it or label it or make announcements. They just were together. Ryan came to Emma's house every day. They worked on the final touches, hanging pictures, fixing a sticky door, planting bulbs in the garden that wouldn't bloom until spring. Lily talked more. Not constantly, not to everyone. But to Emma, she spoke in full sentences, asked questions, told stories about school and friends, and the birds she watched from her bedroom window. "You're good for her," Ryan said one evening after Lily had fallen asleep on Emma's couch. "Or she's good for me." Maybe both. The night before Emma had to leave, they had dinner at the ranch, just the three of them. Ryan cooked steaks on the grill despite the cold. Lily made a salad that was mostly croutons and cheese. Emma brought wine and tried not to think about goodbyes. After Lily went to bed, Emma and Ryan sat on the porch wrapped in blankets, watching their breath cloud in the frozen air. 2 weeks, Emma said. "That's how long my lawyer thinks it'll take to settle everything." 2 weeks. Ryan took her hand. "I can handle 2 weeks." "What if it takes longer?" "Then it takes longer. I told you, Emma, I'm good at waiting." She leaned into him and he wrapped his arm around her, and they sat like that until the cold drove them inside. That night, Ryan walked her to her car. They stood in the driveway, neither wanting to let go. "Thank you," Emma said, "for everything, for fixing my house and for showing me that letter, and for Emma." Emma. He silenced her with a kiss, soft and lingering and full of promise. "Come back to me." "I will." "I know," he smiled, "but say it anyway." "I'll come back. 2 weeks, I promise." Seattle felt like a foreign city. Too loud, too crowded, too full of memories Emma didn't want to revisit. She stayed in a hotel downtown, met with lawyers in conference rooms that smelled like stale coffee and expensive furniture polish, signed documents, negotiated terms, agreed to pay $40,000 in damages, less than they had asked for, more than she wanted, but fair given the circumstances. The non-compete clause would expire in 6 months. Until then, she couldn't do any architectural work in Montana. After that, she'd be free to start over. Her old boss took her to lunch on her last day in the city. "You're really not coming back," he said. Not a question. "No." "What will you do for work?" "I don't know yet. Figure it out as I go." Emma sipped her water. Maybe that's not such a bad thing, having to start over. "Is it worth it, giving up everything you've built here?" Emma thought about Lily's smile, about Ryan's hands on her face, about her father's laughter with Ruth, about her grandmother's house finally feeling like home. "Yeah," she said, "it's worth it." Emma's flight back to Montana was supposed to leave on a Tuesday afternoon. She woke up that morning to 3 missed calls from Ryan and a text, "Call me. It's important." Her heart in her throat, she called him back. "What's wrong?" "Is it Lily?" "No, Lily's fine." His voice was tight. "But we have a problem. Melissa's lawyer called. She's filing for joint custody. Says she's cleaned up, her act got a stable job, wants to be part of Lily's life." Emma sat down on the hotel bed. "Can she do that?" "Legally, yes. She has rights as Lily's mother even though she walked away." A pause. "The hearing is next week. My lawyer wants to meet tomorrow to prepare." "I'll be there. My flight lands at 4. "Emma, you don't have to." "Ryan, I'll be there." Another pause, longer this time. "Thank you." The hearing was set for Thursday at the Missoula County Courthouse. Emma spent Wednesday helping Ryan and his lawyer prepare, gathering evidence, organizing documents, making lists of all the ways Melissa's abandonment had damaged Lily. The little girl knew something was wrong. She drew pictures of storms and dark clouds and birds with broken wings. "Is my mom coming back?" she asked Emma Wednesday night while they were coloring. Emma chose her words carefully. "She wants to see you, spend time with you." "I don't want to see her." "I know, sweetheart. She left me." Lily's voice was small. "Why did she leave me?" Emma pulled the little girl into her lap. "Sometimes people make mistakes, really big mistakes, and they hurt the people they love without meaning to." "Did your mom leave you?" "No, but my husband did, in a different way." Emma smoothed Lily's hair, and it hurt so much I thought I'd never feel okay again. "Do you feel okay now?" Emma looked across the room to where Ryan sat reviewing documents, his brow furrowed in concentration, his whole world wrapped up in protecting his daughter. "Yeah," she said softly, "I do." Thursday morning dawned gray and cold. They drove to the courthouse in Ryan's truck, Ryan, Emma, Marcus, and Ryan's father Tom, who'd come up from his retirement cabin to support his son. Melissa was already there when they arrived. She looked different than the photos Emma had seen, thinner. Her blonde hair cut short, expensive clothes that seemed out of place in rural Montana. Her lawyer was expensive too. Sharp suit, sharper eyes, the kind of person who made a living out of finding loopholes and exploiting sympathies. The hearing took place in a small courtroom. The judge, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and a no-nonsense expression, listened as both lawyers presented their cases. Melissa's lawyer painted a picture of a woman who'd made mistakes, but had grown from them, who'd struggled with postpartum depression and an abusive relationship, but had sought help, gotten therapy, stabilized her life, who'd thought about her daughter every day and wanted a chance to make amends. Ryan's lawyer presented the facts: 2 years of absence, no child support payments, no contact with Lily except through lawyers, no consistency or stability to offer the child. Through it all, Lily sat pressed against Emma's side, her small body rigid with tension. When the judge asked if anyone else wanted to speak, Emma surprised herself by standing. "Your Honor, my name is Emma Hayes. She paused. What was she? Not Lily's mother, not Ryan's wife, just someone who loved them both. "I'm a family friend. I've been spending time with Lily over the past 2 months, and I'd like to speak on her behalf." The judge nodded. "Go ahead, Ms. Hayes." Emma took a breath. "I came back to Missoula in December after my husband died. I was lost, grieving, not sure how to keep living. And then I met Lily." She looked at the little girl who was watching her with buoyant, trusting eyes. "She's the bravest person I know. She's dealing with trauma that would break most adults. She's learning to speak again, to trust again, to open her heart after it was shattered." "Ms. Hayes," Melissa's lawyer started to interrupt. "Let her finish," the judge said quietly. Emma continued, "I'm not saying Melissa shouldn't have rights. I'm not saying she doesn't love her daughter. But love isn't enough. Lily needs stability, consistency, people who show up every day, not just when it's convenient. And right now, that's Ryan. That's his family. That's the life he's built for her where she feels safe." She sat back down. Ryan's hand found hers under the table and squeezed. The judge was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at Melissa. "Mrs. Brennan, appreciate the changes you have made in your life. I do. But this isn't about punishing you or rewarding you. This is about what's best for a 6-year-old child who's already been through tremendous upheaval." She glanced at her notes. "I'm granting you supervised visitation rights. 4 hours twice a month with a court-appointed supervisor present. After 6 months, we'll reconvene and assess whether unsupervised visits are appropriate. Until then, sole custody remains with Mr. Cole." Melissa's face crumpled. Her lawyer whispered something urgent in her ear. The judge wasn't finished. "And Mrs. Brennan, if you miss a single visit, if you're late, if you give me any reason to doubt your commitment, I'll revoke these privileges without hesitation. Children are not experiments. They're not second chances. They deserve adults who put them first, every single time." The gavel came down. Outside the courthouse, Emma pulled Lily aside while Ryan talked with his lawyer. "You okay?" she asked. Lily nodded, then after a pause, "Will you come with me when I have to see my mom?" "If you want me there, I'll be there." "I want you there." The little girl's voice was firm. "You make me brave." Emma hugged her tight. "You make yourself brave, sweetheart. I'm just here to remind you." Later, driving back to the ranch, Ryan reached across the truck's cab and took Emma's hand. "Thank you," he said, "for what you said in there. I meant it. I know." He lifted her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles. "Move in with us." Emma's heart stopped. "What? Move in, you and me and Lily. Be a family." He glanced at her vulnerability written all over his face. "I know it's fast. I know we haven't figured everything out. But I don't want to wait anymore, Emma. I've waited 15 years. I'm done waiting." "Ryan, you don't have to answer now. Think about it and take your time. But just think about it." Emma looked out the window at the Montana landscape rolling past the mountains, the wide sky, the promise of spring, hidden under winter's snow. She thought about her grandmother's house, the one she'd fixed with her own hands. She thought about the life she'd been building piece by piece, day by day. She thought about everything she was and everything she wanted to be. "Okay," she said. Ryan almost swerved off the road. "Okay, not yes, not yet, but okay, I'll think about it." She smiled. "Seriously think about it." He smiled back, and Emma felt something settle in her chest. Not fear, not doubt, just rightness. Emma spent 3 days thinking about Ryan's question. She drove past her grandmother's house every morning, the place she'd poured months of work into, the place that had become her refuge. She imagined leaving it empty, locking the door, walking away. She had coffee with her father and Ruth, watching the easy way they moved around each other, the way Marcus's face lit up when Ruth laughed. "You're thinking too hard," Marcus said one afternoon, catching her staring into space. "How do you know?" "Because you've got that look, the one you used to get before math tests." He set down his coffee cup carefully, both hands wrapped around it. "What's the worst that could happen? It could fall apart. Ryan and I could realize we're making a mistake. Lily could resent me. I could lose everything all over again. And the best that could happen." Emma was quiet for a long moment. "I could be happy." "So what's stopping you?" The question followed her home. What was stopping her? Fear mostly. Fear of getting it wrong. Fear of hurting people she loved. Fear of choosing happiness and having it ripped away again. But under the fear was something else, something that felt like truth. She wanted this, wanted Ryan and Lily and the life they were offering, wanted it more than she'd wanted anything in years. On Sunday morning, Emma drove to the ranch with her answer. Ryan was in the barn when she arrived, mucking out stalls. He looked up when he heard footsteps, saw her, and leaned his pitchfork against the wall. "Hey," he said. "Hey." Emma twisted her hands together. "Can we talk?" "Yeah, let me just—" He pulled off his work gloves, wiped sweat from his forehead. "Give me 5 minutes to clean up." "Actually, can we talk here?" "Now." Something in her voice made him go still. "Okay." Emma took a breath, let it out. "I want to say yes to moving in. To all of it." Hope flared in Ryan's eyes. "But," she continued, "I need you to understand something first. I'm broken, Ryan. I'm still broken. I have days where I can't get out of bed, where I can't stop thinking about David and all the ways I failed him. I have nightmares. I forget to eat. I cry at random moments for no reason." "Emma, I'm not done." She stepped closer. "I don't know how to be someone's partner. My marriage was a disaster. I don't know how to be a mother figure to Lily. I've never even babysat. I don't know if I can do this, any of this." "Are you done now?" Ryan asked gently. She nodded. He closed the distance between them, took her face in his hands. "Emma, I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm not asking you to have it all figured out. I'm just asking you to be here. To try. That's it. What if trying isn't enough? Then we figure it out together." He kissed her forehead. "You think I have it all together? I'm a single dad who can barely keep his daughter talking. I'm running a ranch that's hemorrhaging money because I'm too stubborn to modernize. I wake up some mornings and have no idea what I'm doing. You always seem so sure." "That's because I've learned to fake it." He smiled. "But with you, I don't have to fake anything. You see all my broken pieces and you're still here." Emma leaned into him, breathing in the smell of hay and horses and him. "Okay, okay. Yes, I'll move in." She pulled back to meet his eyes. "But I'm keeping my house, just in case." "In case of what?" in case I need somewhere to run when this gets too real. Ryan's smile was sad in understanding. Fair enough. Keep your escape route. I'm not going anywhere. They told Lily that afternoon over lunch. The little girl listened quietly as Ryan explained that Emma would be living with them, that she'd have her own room but would be part of their family. Like a mom, Lily asked. Emma's breath caught. Not exactly, more like a really good friend who lives with you. Lily considered this. Can I call you mom if I want to? The question hit Emma like a physical blow. She looked at Ryan, who was watching his daughter with barely contained emotion. You can call me whatever feels right to you, Emma said carefully. Emma is fine. Mom is fine. We'll figure it out together. Lily thought about it for a moment. Then I think Emma for now. Maybe Mom later. That sounds perfect. After lunch, Lily took Emma's hand and led her upstairs. I want to show you something. The little girl's room was exactly as Emma remembered, walls covered in drawings, shelves full of rocks and books and small treasures. But now there was something new, a cleared space on one shelf, empty and waiting. That's for your things, Lily said. So you know this is your home too. Emma knelt down to Lily's level. Thank you, sweetheart. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me. Will you draw with me before you bring your stuff? I'd love to. They spent the afternoon drawing birds. Lily taught Emma the subtle differences between magpies and ravens, between hawks and eagles. Her knowledge was encyclopedic, gathered from library books and patient observation. My mom used to say birds were boring, Lily said quietly. That's when I stopped talking to her, because she didn't understand. Emma set down her pencil. Your mom made a mistake. Birds aren't boring. They're miraculous. That's what Dad says. Your dad's smart, Lily smiled. So are you. Emma moved in the following weekend. She didn't bring much clothes books, her laptop, a few photographs. The furniture in her grandmother's house stayed where it was, a safety net she wasn't ready to abandon. Ryan cleared out the guest room for her, a small space with a window overlooking the mountains and a closet that smelled faintly of cedar. I'll understand if you need space, he said as she unpacked. If some nights are too hard, if you need to be alone. No pressure, no expectations. Emma kissed him. Thank you. That first night she lay in her new room listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the ranch, the cattle lowing in distant fields, the creak of old wood settling, Ryan moving around in his bedroom down the hall. She couldn't sleep. At 2 in the morning she gave up trying and wandered downstairs to make tea. Ryan was already in the kitchen, sitting at the table in the dark. Can't sleep either, Emma asked. Lily had a nightmare about Melissa's visit tomorrow. Took me an hour to calm her down. The first supervised visit was scheduled for Sunday afternoon. Melissa would meet Lily at a family counseling center in town with him and Ryan waiting in the next room. Is she okay now? She's asleep, but she's scared. Ryan scrubbed his hands over his face. I don't know how to make this easier for her. Emma sat down beside him. You can't. You can only be there when it's over. They sat in companionable silence, drinking tea, watching the night through the kitchen window. Thank you for being here, Ryan said eventually, for doing this with us. Where else would I be? He took her hand, lifted it to his lips, kissed her knuckles one by one, a gesture so tender it made her chest ache. Come to bed with me, he said quietly. Not for sex, just to sleep. I don't want to be alone tonight. Okay. They climbed into his bed. They were in bed now, she supposed, and lay facing each other in the dark. Ryan's hand found hers under the covers and held on. Emma fell asleep like that, tethered to something solid, and slept through the night for the first time in months. Sunday afternoon arrived too quickly. They drove to the counseling center in tense silence. Lily sat in the back seat, clutching a drawing she'd made, a peace offering, or a shield, Emma couldn't tell which. The center was a cheerful building, painted yellow with toys in the waiting room and posters about feelings on the walls. A woman in her 50s greeted them, Dr. Sarah Chen, the court-appointed supervisor. You must be Lily, Dr. Chen said, crouching to the little girl's level. I've heard wonderful things about you. Lily pressed closer to Ryan's leg. Your mom is in the other room. Dr. Chen continued gently. She's very excited to see you. Would you like to meet her? Lily looked up at Ryan, then at Emma, then back at Dr. Chen. Will they come too? She asked, her voice barely audible. They'll be right next door. If you need them all, you have to do is say so. Lily's hand found Emma's. Will you stay close? As close as they'll let me, Emma promised. They walked down a hallway to a room with a two-way mirror. Through the glass, Emma could see Melissa sitting on a couch, her hands clasped tight, her face a mask of hope and fear. Dr. Chen led Lily into the room. Ryan and Emma watched from the other side of the mirror, their hands clasped together so tight Emma's fingers went numb. Hi, baby, Melissa said when she saw her daughter. Her voice cracked. You've gotten so big. Lily stood frozen in the doorway. Would you like to sit down, Dr. Chen suggested. Maybe show your mom what you brought. Lily walked to the couch, sat as far from Melissa as the furniture would allow, held out her drawing without a word. Melissa took it with shaking hands. Did you draw this? A nod. It's beautiful. You are so talented. Melissa's eyes filled with tears. Lily, I know I hurt you. I know I left when you needed me. But I want you to know it wasn't your fault. It was never your fault. Lily stared at her hands. I was sick, Melissa continued. Not the kind of sick where you get medicine and feel better. The kind where your brain doesn't work right and you make bad choices and hurt people you love. She wiped at her eyes. But I'm getting help now. I'm doing better. And I want to be your mom again. If you'll let me. Emma watched Ryan's face, saw the war there between wanting to protect his daughter and wanting her to have a relationship with her mother, between old hurt and cautious hope. I don't want you to be my mom, Lily said suddenly, her voice clear and strong. Melissa flinched. I have a mom. The little girl looked directly at the two-way mirror. Emma is my mom now. Emma's heart stopped. Beside her, Ryan made a sound like he'd been punched. Sweetheart, Emma isn't, Melissa started. She doesn't leave, Lily interrupted. She comes every day. She draws with me and makes me feel safe and loves my dad. That's what moms do. Dr. Chen intervened gently. Lily, it's okay to have complicated feelings. Your mom, Melissa, will always be your mother. But Emma is someone who cares about you very much. Both things can be true. I don't want both things. Lily's voice rose. I want to go home. Emma was through the door before she realized she had moved. She gathered Lily into her arms as the little girl started to cry. Big gasping sobs that shook her whole body. I've got you, Emma murmured. You're okay. I've got you. Over Lily's head, she met Melissa's eyes, saw devastation there and understanding. I'm sorry, Emma said quietly. Melissa shook her head. Don't be. She's right. You're doing what I couldn't. Her voice broke. Take care of my baby. I will. They drove home in silence. Lily fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from crying. Ryan's jaw was tight, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Talk to me, Emma said. What Lily said in there? He stopped, started again. You know she didn't mean it right. She was upset, lashing out. Ryan, because I don't want you to feel pressured. You are not her mother. You don't have to be her mother. We can just... Ryan. Emma put her hand on his arm. Pull over. He pulled off the highway onto a gravel turnout, killed the engine, stared straight ahead. Look at me, Emma said. He did. And she saw fear in his eyes, raw and real. You're scared, she said. Of course I'm scared. Lily's getting attached, really attached. And if you leave, if this doesn't work out, it'll destroy her. I can't, his voice cracked. I can't watch her get abandoned again. Emma unbuckled her seatbelt, turned to face him fully. I'm not going anywhere. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise I'll try. I can promise that if I leave, it won't be because I stopped caring. It'll be because we both decided it wasn't working. She took his hand, and I can promise that Lily will always matter to me regardless of what happens between us. Ryan closed his eyes, breathed. Okay, okay, I believe you. He opened his eyes, met her gaze. I'm sorry for doubting, for being scared. Don't apologize for being scared. We're both scared. Emma glanced back at Lily, still sleeping peacefully. But we're doing it anyway. February melted into March. The snow began to retreat from the lower elevations, revealing muddy earth and the first brave shoots of new grass. Melissa's visits continued. Twice a month, Emma and Ryan brought Lily to the center and waited while mother and daughter navigated their complicated relationship. It got easier slowly. Lily stopped crying, started talking, even laughed once at something Melissa said. She's never going to be my mom again, Lily told Emma one night while they were getting ready for bed. Not the way she was, but maybe she can be something else. Like what? I don't know yet, but something. Emma helped her brush her teeth. That sounds wise. Dr. Chen says I'm emotionally intelligent. Dr. Chen is right. In bed, Lily looked up at Emma with serious eyes. Can I call you mom yet, or is it still too soon? Emma's throat tightened. She'd been waiting for this question, dreading it, and hoping for it in equal measure. You can call me whatever feels right, she said. There's no rush, no pressure. What if I want to call you mom, but Melissa gets sad? Then we'll help Melissa understand that love isn't a competition, that you having two people who care about you is better than one. Lily thought about this. Okay, I'll try it out. See how it feels. Sounds like a plan. Emma kissed her forehead, turned off the light, and was almost to the door when Lily's voice stopped her. Good night, Mom. Emma had to press her hand to her mouth to keep from sobbing. Good night, sweetheart. She found Ryan in their bedroom folding laundry with the focused intensity of someone trying not to think about something. She called me Mom, Emma said. Ryan dropped the shirt he was holding. What? Just now, when I said goodnight. He crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms, held her so tight she could feel his heartbeat against her chest. Are you okay? He asked into her hair. I don't know, I think so. Emma pulled back to look at him. Is it crazy that I'm terrified? She's not even my kid, and I'm terrified of screwing this up. That means you're already a parent. Terror is basically the job description. She laughed, watery and real. Great, so it doesn't get easier. Not even a little bit. He kissed her. But we'll figure it out together. In early April, Emma got a call from a small architecture firm in Missoula. They'd heard she was in town, they had seen the work she'd done on her grandmother's house, and wondered if she'd be interested in consulting on a project. Nothing major, the woman on the phone said. Just a historic renovation. Old theater downtown. The owner wants someone who understands preservation. Emma's non-compete clause had another 2 months to run. I can't actually do any design work until June. That's fine. This project won't break ground until July anyway. We just want to get you on board early. Talk about vision, historical accuracy, that sort of thing. It wasn't Seattle. Wasn't a high-rise mixed-use development or a cutting-edge sustainable design. But standing in the kitchen of Ryan's ranch, their ranch looking out at Montana mountains, and thinking about bringing an old theater back to life, Emma felt something she hadn't felt about work in years. Excitement. I'd love to hear more, she said. The theater was beautiful, or had been once. Now it was a shell-peeling paint water-damaged seats ripped out and sold decades ago. But the bones were good. Art Deco details, original crown molding, a stage that had hosted everyone from traveling Shakespeare companies to local high school productions. Emma walked through it with the owner, an elderly woman named Margaret, who'd grown up attending shows there and fell in love. It was magic, Margaret said, running her hand along a cracked wall. When I was a girl, coming here was like entering another world. I want my grandchildren to feel that. We can make that happen, Emma said. She couldn't do design work yet, but she could consult, research, plan, build relationships, set the foundation. For the first time since leaving Seattle, Emma felt like herself again. Not the broken widow, not the woman running from her past, just Emma. Architect, problem solver, dreamer. She came home that evening to find Ryan and Lily in the barn teaching a foal to accept a halter. They looked up when she walked in, both smiling, and Emma thought, this is what happiness looks like. How'd it go? Ryan asked. Really good. I think I'm going to take the job. Yeah. She leaned against the stall door. It's not what I used to do. Smaller scale, less prestige, less money, but it feels right. Ryan came over, kissed her temple. Then it's perfect. Marcus's Parkinson's progressed slowly but steadily. By May, the tremors were more pronounced. He struggled with buttons, with writing, with all the small motor skills he'd once taken for granted. But he was still Marcus, still stubborn, still independent, still showing up to Sunday dinners with Ruth and making terrible dad jokes that made Lily groan. I need to talk to you about something, he said to Emma one afternoon. They were sitting on his porch, their favorite place for difficult conversations. Okay, Ruth and I are getting married. Emma's head snapped up. What? How long have you? We've been talking about it for a while. Didn't want to say anything until we were sure. He fidgeted with his coffee cup. She knows what she's signing up for. The Parkinson's, the decline, all of it. And she wants to do it anyway. Dad, that's wonderful. Is it? Seems selfish tying someone to a future like mine? It's not selfish. It's love. Emma took his hand, the one that trembled, and held it steady. You deserve to be happy, for however long you have. And Ruth deserves the chance to love you. Marcus's eyes were wet. Your mother would have liked her. Mom would have loved her. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the spring afternoon fade into evening. You and Ryan, Marcus said eventually. It's serious. Yeah. You happy? Emma thought about waking up next to Ryan, about Lily calling her mom, about the theater project and Sunday dinners and all the small, ordinary moments that made up a life. Yeah, she said. I'm happy. Good, he squeezed her hand. You deserve that too. Marcus and Ruth got married in June in a small ceremony at the courthouse with just family present. Lily was the flower girl, taking her job with utmost seriousness. Ryan was best man. Emma stood beside Ruth and cried through the entire ceremony. Afterward, they had dinner at the ranch. Ruth fit into their strange little family like she'd always been there, laughing at Marcus's jokes, admiring Lily's drawings, helping Emma in the kitchen while the men grilled steaks. Thank you, Ruth said quietly while they were washing dishes, for welcoming me. I know it can't be easy, someone new in your father's life. Are you kidding? You make him happy. That's all that matters. He talks about you constantly, how proud he is, how brave you've been. Emma's hands stilled in the soapy water. I don't feel brave. That's usually how it works. The bravest people never do. In late June, Emma's non-compete clause officially expired. She signed a contract with the small Missoula firm and threw herself into the theater renovation project. It was challenging in ways her Seattle work never had been, working with limited budgets, historical preservation requirements, stubborn contractors who didn't understand her vision. But it was also rewarding. She was building something that mattered, something that would bring beauty and culture back to her community. Ryan started coming to the theater in the evenings, helping with demolition work, hauling debris. They'd work side by side until dark, then drive home covered in dust and exhausted. This is nice, Ryan said one night as they were loading tools into his truck. Manual labor, being part of your world, seeing what you do. Emma leaned against him. You're always part of my world, even when we're apart. He kissed the top of her head. I love you, Emma Hayes. It was the first time he had said it. The words hung in the summer air, precious and terrifying. I love you too, Emma said. I have for a while. I was just scared to say it. Scared of what? Of jinxing it, of tempting fate, of believing in something good and having it ripped away. She looked up at him. But I'm done being scared. I love you. I love Lily. I love this life we're building. Ryan's smile was incandescent. Say it again. I love you. Again. I love you, Ryan Cole. And I'm not going anywhere. He kissed her, then deep and thorough, and Emma felt every remaining wall around her heart crumble into dust. July brought heat and the sound of construction. The theater was taking shape, new seats ordered, stage rebuilt, sound system updated, while maintaining the Art Deco aesthetic. Margaret came by every week to check on progress, bringing cookies and stories about the building's glory days. My husband proposed to me here, she said one afternoon, standing on the newly refinished stage. 1957, during a production of Oklahoma. He was supposed to be in the chorus, but he forgot his lines because he was so nervous. She laughed, asked me right there in front of everyone. I said yes before he even finished the question. Emma imagined a young Margaret, a shy man on one knee, an audience holding its breath. This place holds so much love, Margaret continued. That's what I want back. Not just the beauty, but the feeling. That magic that happens when people come together to experience something bigger than themselves. We'll get it there, Emma promised. And they would. She could see it now. The finished space, the lights down low, the curtain rising, that collective intake of breath before the show begins. She was building something that would outlast her, something that mattered. On a Thursday morning in late July, Emma woke to find an envelope slipped under her bedroom door at the ranch. She recognized Ryan's handwriting immediately. Inside was a letter, old yellowed paper, the one from 15 years ago, and beneath it a new letter. Emma, 15 years ago, I wrote you this letter and never had the courage to give it to you. I've carried it with me ever since, a reminder of the coward I was, the chance I let slip away. But I'm not that scared kid anymore. And you're not the girl who left for Harvard. We've both been broken. We've both been remade. And somehow, impossibly, we found our way back to each other. I don't believe in fate, but I believe in choice. And every day I choose you. I choose us. I choose this beautiful, messy, perfect life we're building. There's something I want to ask you, but not in a letter this time. Meet me at the creek tonight. Sunset. Love, Ryan. Emma's hands trembled as she read it, then read it again. She found Lily in the kitchen eating cereal and drawing. Did you know about this? Emma asked, holding up the letter. Lily looked up, smiled innocently. Know about what? Lily Cole. The little girl giggled. Dad said I'm not supposed to say anything. It's a surprise. Emma's heart was hammering. What kind of surprise? The best kind. Lily went back to her drawing, then looked up again. You should wear your blue dress, the one you wore to Grandpa Marcus's wedding. Emma spent the day in a state of nervous anticipation. She worked on the theater, but her mind was elsewhere. She had lunch with Ruth, who seemed to know something but wouldn't say what. She picked up Lily from her playdate, and the little girl chattered the whole way home about stars and wishes and magic. At 5 o'clock, Emma showered and put on the blue dress, looked at herself in the mirror, and barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked happy, whole. Ryan was waiting by his truck when she came downstairs. He wore a button-down shirt and jeans, his hair still damp, his eyes bright with something that looked like joy and terror combined. You look beautiful, he said. You look nervous. I am. He opened the truck door for her. Ready? For what? You'll see. They drove to the field in comfortable silence, Ryan's hand finding hers on the seat between them. The evening was perfect, warm but not hot, the sky beginning its slow fade from blue to gold. When they reached the creek, Emma saw what he'd done. The old cottonwood was strung with lights, simple white bulbs that glowed soft in the gathering dusk. A blanket was spread on the grass, a picnic basket, wildflowers in a mason jar. Ryan, she breathed, I wanted it to be special. He took her hand, led her to the blanket. This is where I brought you when you were drowning, where I realized I was still in love with you, where I knew I wanted to spend the rest of my life trying to make you happy. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Ryan knelt down. Not on one knee, he was already on the blanket, but the intention was clear. From his pocket, he pulled a small velvet box. I'm not good with words, he said. Not the way you are, but I'm going to try to. He opened the box. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, a single stone that caught the fading light. Emma Hayes, you came back to Missoula broken and lost, and somehow in helping you find yourself again, I found myself too. His voice cracked. You've given me and Lily a family, a home, a future I thought we'd lost. Tears were streaming down Emma's face now. I don't need you to be perfect, Ryan continued. I don't need you to have it all figured out. I just need you to stay, to keep choosing us, choosing this every single day. He took a breath. Will you marry me? Will you be my wife and Lily's mom and my partner in the beautiful, messy, imperfect life? Emma was nodding before he finished. Yes, yes, absolutely yes. Ryan slipped the ring on her finger, a perfect fit, and then he was kissing her, both of them, laughing and crying, the Montana sunset painting the sky in impossible colors around them. When they finally broke apart, breathless and grinning, Emma heard a sound, applause. She turned to find Lily emerging from behind the truck, Marcus and Ruth right behind her. The little girl was jumping up and down, clapping, her face split by the biggest smile Emma had ever seen. You knew? Emma asked through her tears. Of course I knew. Lily ran to them. I helped Dad pick the ring, and I'm going to be the flower girl at the wedding. Marcus pulled Emma into a hug. Congratulations, honey. You knew too. Ryan asked my permission last week. Old-fashioned, but I appreciated it. He smiled. Your mother would be so happy. She always loved love stories. They celebrated on the blanket as the stars came out. The five of them eating the picnic Ryan had packed, drinking champagne that Marcus had brought, telling stories and making plans, and basking in the simple joy of being together. Lily fell asleep against Emma's shoulder. Marcus and Ruth wandered down to the creek, their silhouettes dark against the starlit water. Ryan pulled Emma close. I can't believe you said yes. Why wouldn't I? I don't know, because I'm just a rancher, because I come with baggage, because Emma silenced him with a kiss. You're not just anything, you're everything. You and Lily, in this life, it's everything I never knew I wanted. When do you want to get married? I don't know, soon, she thought about it. Something small, just us and the people we love. No big wedding. I did the big wedding. It didn't make the marriage any stronger. She looked down at the ring on her finger. This time I want something real, something that matters. October, Ryan suggested. After the theater opens, before winter really sets in. October sounds perfect. They set the date October 15th, a small ceremony at the ranch with Marcus officiating and Lily as their only attendant. Emma threw herself into wedding planning with the same focus she brought to her architecture work. But this time the planning was joyful instead of stressful. Nothing had to be perfect. It just had to be theirs. August brought a complication. Emma was at the theater reviewing blueprints with her contractor when her phone rang. Unknown number. Is this Emma Hayes? Yes, this is attorney Patricia Brennan. I represent Melissa Hart regarding custody arrangements for Lily Cole. Emma's blood ran cold. What about them? My client is petitioning the court to modify the current agreement. She's requesting unsupervised visits with the eventual goal of joint custody. But the supervised visits have only been going on for 6 months. My client has been compliant with all court requirements. She's maintained steady employment, attended all scheduled visits, and demonstrated significant personal growth. The lawyer's voice was professionally neutral. The hearing is scheduled for September 10th. After she hung up, Emma sat down hard on a sawhorse. This was it, the twist she'd been waiting for, the thing that would tear their family apart. She called Ryan. That night after Lily was asleep, they sat at the kitchen table with the cups of coffee neither of them wanted. What do we do? Emma asked. Fight it. My lawyer says we have grounds Lily's stability, the trauma she's still working through, Melissa's history of abandonment. But what if we lose? Ryan was quiet for a long moment. Then we figure it out. We adapt. We make sure Lily knows she's loved and safe no matter what the custody arrangement looks like. I can't lose her, Ryan. Emma's voice broke. I know I'm not her biological mother, but I can't. Hey, he took her hands. You're not going to lose her. Whatever happens with Melissa, Lily knows who her real family is. She knows who shows up, who stays. She's 6 years old. What if the court decides? Then we appeal. We fight. We do whatever it takes. His grip tightened. But Emma, you can't let fear make you run. Not now. Not when we're so close to everything we wanted. She knew he was right, but the fear was overwhelming, the same fear she had felt before the certainty that any happiness she found would be ripped away. I'm scared, she whispered. I know. Me too. The weeks leading up to the hearing were tense. Emma threw herself into finishing the theater, working 16-hour days to avoid thinking about the upcoming court date. Ryan was quieter than usual, spending extra time with Lily as if trying to store up memories against an uncertain future. Lily knew something was wrong. She drew anxious pictures, birds in cages, storms rolling across mountains, houses with locked doors. Is my other mom going to take me away? She asked Emma one night during bedtime. Emma's heart clenched. No one's taking you anywhere, sweetheart. But she wants me to live with her. She wants to spend more time with you. But you'd still live here, with me and your dad. Promise. Emma couldn't promise, but she said it anyway. Promise. Lily seemed to accept this. But that night, Emma heard her crying through the bedroom wall, soft, muffled sobs that broke Emma's heart. She climbed into bed with Lily held her close, whispered reassurances she hoped were true. I don't want 2 houses, Lily said into Emma's shoulder. I just want home. I know, baby, I know. The hearing was on a Tuesday. Emma took the day off from the theater. They dressed carefully, Ryan in a suit, Emma in a conservative dress, Lily in her favorite purple outfit because Emma had told her she could wear whatever made her feel brave. The courtroom was the same one as before, Judge Morrison presiding. Melissa's expensive lawyer, Ryan's dependable one. But this time there was something new, a folder full of documentation. Report cards showing Lily's improvement in school, statements from Dr. Chen about the little girl's emotional progress, letters from teachers, from neighbors, from Marcus and Ruth. And one more thing, Lily had asked to speak to the judge. I want to tell her how I feel, and the little girl had said when Ryan asked if she was sure. I'm not scared anymore. Astute Judge Morrison called Lily to the stand. The little girl walked up with her head high, her hand briefly squeezing Emma's as she passed. Hello, Lily, the judge said kindly. I understand you wanted to talk to me. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, sweetheart. Tell me what's on your mind. Lily took a breath. I know my first mom wants to see me more, and I know she's trying. Dr. Chen says she's made a lot of progress. Emma held Ryan's hand so tight her knuckles went white. But I don't want to live with her, Lily continued. I want to stay with my dad and Emma, because they're my real family. They're the ones who are there when I'm scared. They're the ones who help with homework and make breakfast and tuck me in every night. Lily, Judge Morrison said gently, no one is suggesting you leave your father's home. But if she gets joint custody, I might have to spend weekends there or holidays. And I don't want that. Lily's voice was steady, clear. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just telling the truth. My first mom left when I needed her. Emma stayed. Melissa was crying silently in her seat. I think maybe someday I could have two moms, Lily said. When I'm older and I understand things better. But right now I just want one home, one family, the one I have. Judge Morrison studied the little girl for a long moment. Thank you for your honesty, Lily. That was very brave. After Lily returned to her seat, the judge reviewed documents, asked questions, listened to arguments from both lawyers. Finally, she spoke. Mrs. Brennan, I commend you on the work you have done, the progress you've made. It's clear you love your daughter and want to be part of her life. Melissa's lawyer started to smile. However, Judge Morrison continued, this court's primary concern is the well-being of the child. And right now, Lily has made it clear what she needs. She looked at Melissa directly. I'm maintaining the current custody arrangement. Supervise visits twice monthly with a review in 1 year. At that time, if progress continues, we'll discuss expanded visitation. Relief flooded through Emma so powerfully she thought she might faint. I'm also recommending family therapy, the judge added, for all parties, Lily, Mr. Cole, Ms. Hayes, and Mrs. Brennan, not court-ordered but strongly suggested, to help navigate these complicated relationships. She looked at Lily. Sweetheart, you are very lucky to have so many people who love you. As you get older, I hope you'll find space in your heart for all of them. The gavel came down. Outside the courthouse, Melissa approached them. Emma tensed, but Ryan's hand on her back kept her grounded. Thank you, Melissa said quietly, looking at Emma, for taking care of her, for being what I couldn't be. She's an incredible kid, Emma replied. I know. Melissa's smile was sad. She gets that from her dad. She looked at Ryan. I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep trying, keep showing up. But I understand I have to earn this, and that's going to take time. We'll figure it out, Ryan said, for Lily's sake. Melissa nodded. Then she crouched down to Lily's level. I'm proud of you, baby, for speaking up, for knowing what you need. Thanks, Lily said, her voice small but kind. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Okay. They watched Melissa walk away, shoulders back, head high, a woman still fighting for her daughter but finally understanding the battle she'd lost. September brought cooler weather in the theater's grand reopening. Emma stood in the back of the house on opening night, watching the audience file in, families, couples, elderly people who remembered the theater from their youth, children experiencing live theater for the first time. Margaret found her in the crowd. It's beautiful, better than I ever dreamed. Thank you for trusting me with it. Thank you for bringing it back to life. The lights went down, the curtain rose, and Emma felt that collective intake of breath, that magic that happens when people come together for something bigger than themselves. Ryan and Lily were in the third row. Emma could see them from her vantage point, Lily on the edge of her seat, completely absorbed, Ryan watching his daughter with undisguised love. And in that moment, Emma understood what Margaret had meant about this place holding love. Because love wasn't just romance or grand gestures. It was this being part of a community, creating beauty building, something that would outlast you. After the show, they walked through downtown Missoula, the 5 of them now with Marcus and Ruth. Lily held Emma and Ryan's hands swinging between them, chattering about her favorite scenes. "Did you see the bird costumes?" she asked Emma. "They look just like my drawings." "They did. I noticed that too. Maybe I could design costumes someday, when I'm older." "Maybe you could." Marcus walked beside them, Ruth's arm through his. His tremor was worse at night, but he was smiling. Happy. Here. Emma thought about all the moments that had led to this one David's death, the grief that had driven her home, the broken house she'd fixed, the broken man she'd healed, with the broken little girl who'd called her mom. None of it had been planned. All of it had been necessary. "You okay?" Ryan asked, catching her expression. "Yeah," Emma squeezed his hand. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." October 15th dawned clear and cool. Perfect weather for a wedding. Emma woke in her old room at her grandmother's house, the one she'd kept all these months, though she rarely used it anymore. Ruth had brought her there the night before, following the tradition of the bride and groom spending their last night apart. "Nervous?" Ruth asked while helping Emma into her dress. Emma wore something simple, cream-colored tea-length, nothing like the elaborate gown from her first wedding. This one felt like her, honest, unpretentious, real. "No," Emma said, and she meant it. "This is right. Your father is so proud of you. He wanted me to tell you that." "Is he okay?" "His tremors have been worse lately." "He's fine, took his medication early. He wouldn't miss this for anything." Ruth's smile was gentle. "He's been practicing his officiant speech for weeks." The ceremony was in the ranch's backyard under a trellis Ryan had built himself. Chairs were set up in rows, maybe 30 people total. Family, close friends, the people who mattered. Lily walked down the aisle first, scattering flower petals with the utmost seriousness. She wore a purple dress and cowboy boots, because Emma had told her she could wear whatever made her happy. Then Emma walking alone, because that felt right too. Not being given away, but choosing, stepping forward into her own future. Ryan stood at the altar in a suit, his hair still damp from the shower, looking at her like she'd hung the stars. Marcus officiated, his hands shaking slightly, but his voice strong. "We gather here today to witness the joining of two people who've already been joined for months, who've built a life together, raised a child together, healed together." He spoke about love and commitment and choosing each other every day. He spoke about Emma's mother, who would have loved this day, about second chances and brave choices in coming home. When it was time for vows, Ryan went first. "Emma." His voice was rough with emotion. 15 years ago, I wrote you a letter telling you I loved you. I was too scared to give it to you then. But I'm not scared anymore." He took her hands. "I love you. I love your strength and your vulnerability. I love how you draw terrible birds with my daughter. I love how you never give up even when things are hard." Emma's vision blurred with tears. "I promise to be your partner," Ryan continued, "to support your dreams, to hold you when you're sad and celebrate with you when you're happy, to love you through good days and bad, through sickness and health, through all the ups and downs that life throws at us. I promise to never let you forget that you're home, that you belong here, with us." Emma had to wipe her eyes before she could speak. "Ryan," she took a shaky breath. "When I came back to Missoula, I was lost, broken. I didn't think I deserved to be happy. But you showed me that broken things can be fixed, that sometimes they're even more beautiful after they've been put back together." She could hear Lily sniffling behind her. "I promise to love you and Lily with everything I have," Emma said. "To build a life with you that's full of laughter and art, and terrible dad jokes and spontaneous adventures. I promise to be honest even when it's hard, to stay even when I'm scared, to choose you every single day for the rest of my life." Marcus's voice cracked as he said, "By the power vested in me by the state of Montana, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Ryan, you may kiss your bride." Ryan pulled Emma close and kissed her soft and deep and full of promise. Around them, their small audience erupted in applause and cheers. When they broke apart, Emma saw Lily bouncing on her toes, her face split by the biggest smile. The little girl rushed forward and threw her arms around both of them. "We're a real family now," Lily said. "Official and everything." Emma pulled her close. "We've always been a real family, sweetheart. This just makes it legal." The reception was in the barn, decorated with lights and wildflowers. and the organized chaos that comes from people who care more about joy than perfection. There was music and dancing, and more food than they could possibly eat. Emma danced with her father, his tremors making the steps uneven, but his smile constant. "I'm so proud of you," Marcus said. "Your mother would be too. I wish she could have been here." "She is, in every good choice you make, every time you choose love over fear." Emma hugged him tight, feeling the fragility of his body, the strength of his spirit. Later, she danced with Lily, the little girl standing on her feet, both of them spinning until they were dizzy and laughing. "Best day ever?" Emma asked. "Best day ever," Lily confirmed. As the sun set behind the mountains, Ryan pulled Emma onto the dance floor for their first dance as husband and wife. The song was one they'd chosen together, nothing fancy, just something that felt like them. "Happy?" Ryan asked. Emma looked around at their friends and family, at her father dancing with Ruth, at Lily, twirling with one of Ryan's cousins, at the life they'd built from broken pieces. "Happier than I ever thought possible," she said. "Good." He kissed her forehead. "Because this is just the beginning." Epilogue. 1 year later, the house on Cottonwood Road. Emma's grandmother's house had a new purpose. Emma had converted it into her architecture studio, a space where she could work on her growing roster of projects while still being close to the ranch. The theater renovation had led to other opportunities: a historic hotel restoration, a sustainable community center, a renovation of the old library building. Small projects, local projects, but meaningful ones. She was building a reputation, not as the architect from Seattle who'd given up everything, but as Emma Cole. Yes, she'd taken Ryan's name, the woman who understood how to honor the past while building for the future. On a Saturday morning in October, exactly 1 year after their wedding, Emma sat at her desk in the converted studio reviewing plans. Through the window, she could see the mountains, the same mountains she'd looked at every day growing up, the same mountains she'd sworn she'd never see again. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ryan: "Come home. We have a surprise." She drove to the ranch, wondering what kind of surprise required her to drop everything mid-morning. When she pulled up, she found Ryan and Lily standing in the driveway, both grinning. "Close your eyes," Lily instructed. "What's going on?" "Just close them." Emma obeyed. She heard rustling whispers, a small bark. "Okay, open." In Lily's arms was a puppy, some kind of border collie mix, all floppy ears and wagging tail. "We got a Lily announced unnecessarily. "I see that." Emma looked at Ryan, who shrugged sheepishly. "She's been asking for a year, and I figured we're a family. Families have dues." Emma knelt down to pet the puppy, who immediately licked her face. "What's her name?" "We were thinking you should name her," Lily said. "Since you're the one who said we could think about getting a dog." "I don't remember saying that definitively." "Please." Lily's eyes were shining and pleading. Emma looked at the puppy, at Lily's hopeful face, at Ryan's amused expression. She thought about the Emma from a year ago, the woman who'd driven into Missoula broken and lost, who couldn't imagine ever being happy again. "Hope," she said. "Let's call her Hope." That evening, after Lily and Hope had worn each other out and gone to bed, Emma and Ryan sat on the porch. The October air was crisp, promising winter, but not quite cold enough to drive them inside. "I got a call yesterday," Ryan said, "from Melissa's lawyer." Emma tensed. What did she want? "To let us know Melissa's getting remarried, moving to Bozeman with her new husband. She wants to maintain the visitation schedule, but it'll have to be there instead of here." "How does Lily feel about that?" "I haven't told her yet. Wanted to talk to you first." He took Emma's hand. "But I think it might be good, some distance, a fresh start for Melissa, and Lily's at a place where she can handle it." Emma thought about the little girl who'd been so damaged by abandonment, who'd stopped talking, who'd been afraid to love, and about the confident, happy child she'd become, one who still drew birds obsessively, who'd started writing stories, who called Emma Mom without hesitation, and Melissa by her first name with tentative affection. "She's come so far," Emma said. "We all have." Ryan squeezed her hand. "Remember when you first came back, how you kept one foot out the door, just in case?" "I was so scared." And now, Emma looked out at the ranch, the land she'd learned to love, the house that had become home, the life she'd built from scratch. "Now I'm not scared anymore," she said. "This is where I belong." Ryan pulled her close. "You know what I think." "What?" "I think your grandmother knew when she left you that house." I think she knew you'd need a reason to come back. A project. Something to fix while you were fixing yourself. Maybe. Emma had wondered about that herself. I wish I could thank her. She knows. He kissed the top of her head. You fixed her house. You stayed in Montana. You found your way home. That's all the thanks she'd need. They sat in comfortable silence watching the stars emerge. Inside, Hope barked once in her sleep, already dreaming. Lily's window glowed soft yellow, her reading light still on, even though she was supposed to be asleep. This was their life now. Imperfect, complicated, beautiful. Emma thought about everything that had brought her here, the grief and loss, the broken pieces, the slow, painful work of becoming whole again. She thought about the choices she'd made, the people she'd hurt, the person she'd been, and the person she'd become. Do you ever regret it? She asked Ryan. Taking a chance on me when I was such a mess? Never. His answer was immediate, certain. You weren't a mess, you were healing. There's a difference. I'm still healing. Some days are harder than others. That's okay. That's life. He turned to face her. Emma, I don't need you to be perfect. I never did. I just need you to be here. That's enough. And it was. After everything, after loss and grief and fear and doubt, being here was enough. Choosing love was enough. Staying was enough. Emma leaned into her husband, watched the Montana sky, and felt at peace. She was home. Finally, truly, completely home.